welcome to today's episode of Authentic Achievements, where it's my absolute delight to be joined by the fabulous Dr. Feliks Kravets. Feliks, welcome.
Thank you for introduction. Great to have you, and thank you for an opportunity to talk to listeners.
Oh, it's my pleasure, and I know it's going to be fascinating because we've already had a number of chats and I learned so much in all of them. But before I get carried away and start getting stuck into that conversation, let me share a little bit more about you with the wider audience who might not have had the privilege of getting to know you yet. So Dr. Feliks Kravets is the founder and head coach of CybersecurityEasy.com LLC. It's dedicated to enhancing community cyber safety and social engineering awareness. Recognizing the urgent need for improved understanding in this field, Dr. Kravets aims to simplify cybersecurity concepts, covering essential topics like emails, SMS, phone calls, passwords, AI, and more. With a diverse background as a senior executive, startup advisor, and educator, he brings invaluable experience from roles at AT&T, the University of Potomac, and numerous educational institutions. Holding a doctorate in business administration and a project management degree, Dr. Kravets is committed to making cybersecurity accessible for all. And I mean, that's quite a journey that you've been on, but I mean, what a huge thing as a mum, trying to navigate cybersecurity and all the nuances of that are always forefront of my mind. And I know we've chatted about those before, but before we get stuck into those, can you tell us a little bit about your journey so far and what's led you here?
Yes, thank you. Thank you. It's a great question. Before we continue, I just want to say that thank you for all the credits, and I probably deserved a very small portion of it because we only cover not the whole cybersecurity, but a very small part of it, which is social engineering. So I don't want to take credits for being computer programmer, which I'm not, and we're not helping with coding, with application. We only do human factor.
Okay.
So that is a very small part of it. But in the same time, I truly believe it's highly important because over 90% of all cyber attacks utilizing human factor. You can make best programs in the world, but people always, I don't want to say mess it up, but they will they will do something which will cause the whole system not to properly work. So we specifically deal with training people and companies on how to be safe in terms of social engineering. It's a human-to-human interaction. It's an attempt to lie or to provide wrong information to pretend to be someone else in order to get your personal data. I believe it's a big deal. I was in education for many years, and I noticed it's an issue not only with students, with professors, with administrators of major colleges. It's a situation where criminals are getting smarter and smarter, and none of us can really predict what they will come up with next. So we're all kind of following their steps in order to learn more. And the only way to be ahead of it is to know what they're doing and how they do it, so we can recognize those threats moving forward. I think it's a huge deal, and I try to make my little steps to help to this big movement of helping others, which involves multiple organizations, from government agencies to private organizations and educational institutions, to help all of us to understand how to be safer when we turn a computer or pick up the phone.
It's such a big thing, isn't it? And I think we get so scared of technology and computers and what they're going to do and where they could go. But you make an interesting point. Actually, very often it's not the computer, but it's the individual that's interacting with the computer somewhere else. So not the end user, but somewhere else that's altering how it's supposed to work that causes the bigger problem. Have I understood that correctly?
Sure, that is exactly. So human factor, it's us, who pick up the phone, and it's our choice to trust when we talking to someone who's saying, I'm calling from the bank, or not to trust. And in today's technology, your cell phone will show caller ID, will show you bank. And they have so many more technological tricks that we, in many cases fall, into their ways to get us, no matter how educated we are.
It is that. I mean, they can be so clever, can't they? And then they can look so subtle. I always feel very old-fashioned in the fact that I don't respond to anybody. I go back on, check on the main website and phone the number that's on there, which I appreciate probably makes me not fuddy-duddy. But having worked in financial services for 25 years, it was the only way that you could guarantee you were getting where you were supposed to go, because they got, scams have been clever for decades. Even before technology got so clever, people were always thinking of ways round, ways to outsmart, ways to to commit fraud or to get information that they weren't supposed to. And I think technology's made that easier for them, but the issue remains, and it's the human desire to do that that's the biggest problem, isn't it, rather than the computer's desire to do that.
Sure.
So how is it best for people to get started to even understand, because we're starting to hear a lot about cybersecurity, but less about the nuances of it, as evidenced by the start, and it's easy to kind of get it all lumped into that one big bucket, isn't it? It all sits in there. It's all cybersecurity. But as you've clearly pointed out, that there's nuances of it, and that it's as with most things, the devil, I guess, is always in the detail. So if we don't understand that, we can leave ourselves exposed. Would that be fair?
Sure. And it's a very good point. And as I mentioned, we cannot really understand 100% what another side is doing, because they coming up with new and more clever tricks, no matter how smart we are, no matter how much we read, no matter if we work for the police or for federal agencies and spending 24 hours a day to learn about all other tricks that criminals are doing, they will come up with new tricks as we speak. It's like an antivirus. You can make the best antivirus in the world, but while you're doing this, criminals will come up with new viruses, and it will always behind of what criminals doing. So the only way to kind of think of the only way to be safer would be to change our own psychology, to look at it with through the prism of not trusting. So zero trust approach. Zero trust is the only way to be safe in nowadays, unfortunately. Like we're telling to our children when they walk on the street, if the car stops and somebody's saying, come here, the child should not trust, should, run. So the same way, it's we're on the internet or we're receiving phone calls as adults, and somebody telling us, I'm calling from a government agency, from tax agency, from police, from federal agency, and you will be arrested or you have to pay money now. What is a credit card number, or somebody from your family members, captured by mob or mafia, and you have to pay. So they coming up with all type of different tricks, utilizing our personal feelings, and it's a psychological game of making us believe that family member in trouble, or making us feel that we would like to donate money because it's a good cause, and or would like to switch and save money from one insurance company to the different insurance company, and it's a last minute offer. So there's multiple ways to make us believe, to respond and to share our personal and financial information. So, and again, we don't know what next phone call can come up with, and with voice cloning, AI voice cloning, people might hear the screams on the back, which matching to family members' voice, to children, and to spouses, and so they coming up with all type of different tricks that really make all of us sensitive, nice people to believe into that, with no matter how and again, psychologically, they're trying to make it very strong and very time sensitive. So the only way to do it, to kind of get out of this line of communication, is to take notes and to hang up, no matter how hard it is. Uh, Not to believe and to hang up, and then make other phone calls to the bank or to the police or to whoever they claim to present to verify this information. So, but zero trust is the major component of the industry professionals who work in this field as a main recommendation to stay away from those games. And unfortunately, those games now touching our children with the sextortion, they touching our parents, pretending to be financial institutions and insurance companies. So all our family members are targeted, from children to parents and grandparents, from businesses to random people on the street. So we all have to be in. It's a big business, and people might be calling from countries where it would be difficult for local law enforcement people to go there and to try to find somebody in the middle of that specific country, because it's different law, it's different country. There's no way to really, get there in 30 minutes and arrest somebody. So there's big calling centers operating in multiple countries, specializing in targeting, professionals and people in many developed countries, and they work in 24/7. They're providing training. They have hundreds of employees. So it's a big business, unfortunately.
It's amazing, and I think you talk about that zero trust piece, and it's true. I have this conversation with my little girl and her little friends all the time, when they're like, "Oh, if you tell them not to do something, it's like, do you not trust us?" It's like, it's not you I don't trust, it's everybody else that I don't trust. Because if you just understood how complex and integrated and heavily layered it is, and I remember they play on that. They play on fear of some kind, don't they? Fear of missing out, or fear of somebody being harmed, or fear of getting into trouble, particularly if they phone up and say that they're, from a government agency or the police, like you say, you're immediately on the heightened fear that you're going to get something wrong and get a fine, or get something that, that you should have done differently. And that seems to switch off a part of your brain that listens to the logical what's going on and how realistic is this situation, into the, oh my goodness, what if that happens? And then they're driving into that fear. Is that what drives so many of us to not be on our guard perhaps as tightly as we should?
Sure. Yes, it's a great point. And like I said, no matter what we tell our children or our parents or grandparents, when they receive the phone call or email or text message, in many cases, that's not always a situation where we tell them, don't believe, don't give your credit card information, don't talk to strangers. It might be a child or somebody who put a child to talk to another child, and start from conversation like, how are you? You look cute. Where are you from? How old are you? Are you at home alone? And little by little get into relationships, and then go through, all type of ways to collect video data, which later will be used, against the child. And in the United States, one of those top crimes that FBI is currently targeting, called sextortion, where children get into close or intimate relationships through video channel, one-on-one, and then one of them is actually recording all of this, and after a recording has been completed, targeting another child, asking for money, or this video will be exposed social media and school. So prior, they have a little conversation, a little relationships, a little kind of leading to saying, oh, it's safe to do it because we're in different countries. Maybe nobody will know, why not? Parents will not see us. So they basically, unfortunately, criminals have no boundaries nowadays. They're crossing all red lines, of anything human that we can think of in order to try to get this money. And over 25 kids, suicide, kill themselves last year in the United States based on FBI data, just because of that. And this agency was trying to stop, and I think over 1,500, cases who were, they were monitoring to didn't go that, to that point. But it's a big deal, and unfortunately, it's a developed countries, and parents working day and night, children utilizing technology since they one of my kids was 3.5 years old. He was still not potty trained. He was in diapers going to, education institutions. They gave him iPad. So they give children technology prior to being potty trained nowadays. And we have to train them, explain them, all those dangerous tricks. And I believe that educational systems are far behind with doing this, unfortunately, not only with children, but with adults and with seniors as well.
It's true, and children pick it up so quickly, don't they? I mean, I remember my little girl when she was probably about 18 months, and we were on the phone to my mum and dad, and she reached over and expanded the picture so she could see them better. It was at the time, it wasn't FaceTime or anything, it was literally just their contact picture. And I was like, who showed you that? Clearly, she's just watched other people on devices, but you're like, wowzer. So what are some steps we can take to help keep our families safe, to keep our children and our parents in a more secure environment?
Yeah, it's a very good question. And in addition to schooling system, which we cannot change, and schools have to, get to the point where they should be told children from day one that, not turning on the camera, not turning on the mic, not believe that, the screen name is necessary, the name of the actual person who maybe they know, or, previous neighbor or somebody's child. So to explain that there's bad people who are trying to do bad stuff. Another thing is, in addition to making kids aware that there is a bad people, and they doing bad stuff, and nobody can stop them to try to do it against them. Also to try to build relationships, to ask kids, how was the day, not to tell them, go do your homework, and scream on them, how come you didn't do it yet, get me a phone, not to reinforce this discipline, which is they really need, but also be a friend and try to talk to them, try to tell them your own story, maybe even make up some stories, to kind of lead them or explain them about this type of situation. I wrote a few books on Amazon to younger children, of age under 10, on how to create those password, and how not to turn on the camera and not to turn on the mic. But it's much bigger, and unfortunately, just books would not, help. It should be communication, and should be trust for children to listen and to understand, and to get a point. And as I mentioned, bad thing is everybody's working so many hours, and many children on their own. And if they have a cell phone in the hands, there's no way, especially if there's many kids in the household, there's no way for parents to know what each one of them doing on a cell phone. And with all these messaging systems and video messaging, it's very difficult to control. So building up this communication channel with children is a main way to kind of at least to have more chances to be told, or to be aware of what is going on, and to explain them, what not to do.
Yeah, that makes total sense, because I think, like with most things, when we're educating ourselves or our children, it's in the consistency, isn't it, of the information. It's in keep repeating it so that we go, okay, no, I'm not supposed to do that, am I? And here's why. And I love that you shared about putting the stories in, because that really resonates with us, whatever our age. because once we hear a story, we can start to see ourselves within the story, can't we? So we can, it makes very complex things like cybersecurity, like social engineering, suddenly feel, when I say less scary, I don't mean less scary. I mean, they start off, they're scary because they seem to be something you could never understand. Once you understand them in the way that you've explained it, they become scary because they're scary in that what could actually happen, but actually you now feel a bit more in control and a bit more able to navigate some of those challenges.
Yeah, very, very good point, Sik. And I just want to mention that it's not only specifically related to children. Adults are also target all type of extortion and sextortion type of approaches where people receive emails saying, I saw you on the camera, I'm monitoring your camera, your microphone. There's multiple spyware. There's applications that we're downloading on our cell phones, assuming, oh, it's free, why not to use it? And it comes with access to your mic, access to your camera. And we're looking at the big people who own billion-dollar companies in the United States. When they're making photo pictures sitting at home, you can see the laptop with a little tape on a camera, or as they say, a cell phone with a little tape on the mic, and you'll think like, oh wow, if these people doing this, they probably know what they're doing, because not talking about government agencies, but hackers can easily get into our phone and our camera and our mic, in a very highly easy nowadays. And there's no way to really, control it or to know what's happening or not.
Yeah.
When we talk about ourselves, that is the issue for big corporations. It's much more issues because it's not. I always say attackers on cybersecurity is not that you walk on the street and you realize you have no wallet in your purse or in your pocket, because somebody stole it. It's not, data is there. When you log in, everything is working. So, but attackers made a copy of this. So it's not, it takes time for corporations to even realize that data is stolen, because they made a copy and they left. So it takes month and month of work of professionals to determine it. In many cases, it's not happening for month and month until it happens. So, and everybody's targeted. In the United States, the government agencies, the federal agencies working on the top of the country, data was hacked. The full data was taken out as a part of the attack. And what if we're talking about a single user or a family or a small business, we're vulnerable, and there's no way to be 100% secure and safe. But it's still better to understand what is going on. It's like health. We cannot 100% guarantee we'll never get a flu, we'll never get sick. But if you wash your hands, if you eat vitamins or whatever you do, it makes you better. So the point is of all of this conversation to make you up to speed and to spend some time instead of Facebook and Instagram. With all my respect to social media, spend some time and read cyber news of what is going on, just so if something happened, it might click in your head, oh, I read something similar, so maybe that is similar case, and that is the way to go.
Yeah. Well, it is, isn't it? I mean, educating ourselves is always king, and I think you're right. Often makes me smile that I think I'm in a having normal conversation with friends and things, and you might mention something, and then all of a sudden everything that goes into your mailbox, everything that goes on all your social media is that thing you were talking about. You're like, hello, where did you go? Yeah. Or I own up. I've got a couple of Alexas in the house because they work brilliantly. But the amount of times she pipes up in a conversation and goes, I don't know how to help you with that. And I was like, I didn't ask you to. I didn't say, Alexa, you're supposed to wait for the command, aren't you? That just makes you think, I used to think years ago that to your point earlier, that post-it note over your camera or the post-it note over your microphone were your paranoid conspiracy theorists, but actually maybe they knew a little more than we gave them credit for.
Yeah, yeah. And I believe, I believe it's back to 1999. The CEO of Sun Microsystems, at that time, I think his name is Scott McNally. He said, "You have no privacy anywhere. Get over this." At that time, people were really upset that he said it because, at that time in the United States, everybody was talking about privacy and this and that. But if you think about it, we don't have any privacy nowadays. And your cell phone with your mic is, target for attackers to, to access it on video camera and our GPS, where we see ourselves on a GPS. Anybody who hacked the system can see ourselves too. Monitoring maybe our children location with GPS that they have. Everybody
Yeah.
can do the same. We have phone conversations. People can listen if they hack it, and email systems, log in. So, but my point is just to monitor what is going on with your financial parts and with your family members, to sign up for, system to be alarmed if somebody take money or, you know, pay a bill or balance the changes on your checking account or on a credit card, to have ability to communicate to children, see where they are, and tell them, let us talk to your friends and see how you're at it. Let me help you. Or try to kind of monitor things around, and that's probably the best way to do it. But assumption that people don't know something about us is completely false. It's if you live in the United States, you Google your first and last name. I mean, I'm telling my students, have a Google your first and last name, have a Google your phone number or your email address, even without paying, $5, $10. You can just find almost anything about you, where you live, how much taxes you pay for your house, your family, where you work, your email, your age, and if you pay a few dollars, you can get background check, marriages, divorces, criminal background check. It's all information is available for sale just for a few dollars. Just so if somebody is targeting someone else on purpose specifically, it's almost impossible to really catch this. But majority of attackers don't do targets on a specific person, except if it's a CEO for a major company. Normally they just send multiple emails through hundreds of thousand emails with saying hello without your name on it and saying, oh, you will be arrested, or your balance on the checking account, or your bill was not, credit card was bounced. So look for those, when you get this type of communication, look for those red flags, maybe, stressing you to make decision immediately, offering different phone number from one on a website, and not to follow those stressful pushes to make decisions ASAP.
That is such great advice, Dr. Felix, and I always do learn so very much when I chat with you. I have questions running out of time. So, how do people get in touch with you and work with you, and who is it you help?
Oh, thank you for this question. So we basically coach individuals and groups on the cyber safety. So we have different topics for each training session. One can be email, phishing through email. It can be phishing through phone calls and voice phishing, voice cloning links and fake websites, passwords, which is the biggest thing. You know, thousands of people have password, which is what password, or 1 2 3 4 5 6, or so. We train people to make passwords, more complex and secure. So we do it remotely and locally in person as well. So the best way to get us doing this is to email me at info@cybersecurityeasy.com. It's on our website, cybersecurityeasy.com, or to call using number there as well. And we will be happy to work with senior facilities, with businesses, with individuals, with education institutions, training teachers how to teach those courses to students. Anybody who is interested will be happy to cooperate and to work together.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And obviously, we will make sure that all those details are available in the show notes below so that people can easily get in touch with you and work through how do they find their way through the maze that is social engineering and find their way back to safety. Dr. Feliks, it's been a pleasure as always. I look forward to next time, and thank you for coming on and sharing your insight and giving us more understanding and more education into what is social engineering and why it's important and why we should learn more about it. So thank you.
Thank you very much for inviting me, and stay safe. Always check and utilize zero trust approach. Thank you.
Absolutely. Until next time, everybody. Thank you so much.
Yes, yes.